Hello and welcome to Sports Talk. My name is Jamie Kepp and I'll be the host for today's show. Our guest is Justin Crandall. He's the athletic director from Whitewater High School and probably middle school. We'll find out as well. Justin, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
How about a little personal background about yourself that you care to share with the viewers?
Sure, absolutely. I am a 2001 graduate of Fort Atkinson. I went to Fort Atkinson High School.
Whoa, better not hold that against you.
Right, I appreciate that. Open mind here. Then I went to UW Whitewater for a couple of years. What I really enjoyed doing is, as soon as I got out of high school, I really started coaching. So I got into middle school basketball. I started with freshman football while going to school. So I commuted from Fort to Whitewater. It was tough. Going to school and commuting, and you don't really feel part of the university, and it wasn't a great fit, and I kind of stopped going to school. I went to work in a factory. I worked at a company called Digistar. They make digital manufacturing equipment for farms and stuff like that. So did that for about 4 years while coaching 3 sports: football, basketball, baseball. Ended up deciding, hey, it was time to go back to school. Thought I would, become a teacher and wanted to pursue the head coaching option, and thought that might be the best path to do that. Went to UW Stevens Point, which top 5 decision of my life. I mean, just fell in love with the town, the community, the university. Had a great on-campus job. I was the head of intramurals.
Okay.
That's one of those things where people think about it and they hear, oh, your college job, and they don't really give it a lot of. But what am I doing? I'm training officials. I'm making schedules. I'm renting facilities. Like, what does that sound like?
Dealing with people.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, without even back then knowing what I really wanted to do forever, I had a good taste of what I was going to get into. So, graduated in December of 2011. And, I wasn't one of those guys where I was looking for any job. I kind of wanted something around Stevens Point. My wife worked for a law firm. She's a legal secretary. So we wanted to stay around the Stevens Point area, and got a job at Port Edwards. I was a 42% Phi Ed teacher, so I wasn't making a lot of bank at the time.
Right.
But I was head football coach. I was a middle school basketball coach, and I was assistant baseball coach. So I was kind of running the gamut that first year.
Without being funny, you were living the dream.
I was. Yes, absolutely. Right? Like, I didn't have kids at the time, so you didn't mind coaching until 5:30, 6 o'clock. You were willing to put the time in on the weekends and do, the youth stuff and all of that. So, it's a small community, but it's right next to Wisconsin Rapids. So it had a good feel to it. It was a nice community. So I had my first year there. After my first year, my principal came to me. My athletic director was leaving. He was going down to Brookfield, and he said, hey, what do you think about being the AD? And it's funny because all those years of coaching and being in athletics, I didn't really know what an AD did, right? Like, I kind of thought the coach came up with the schedules and all that stuff. So I'm like, well, looking to boost my contract, right, and get a higher percentage. So I did that, and it got me to 75, 80%. And I guess the rest is kind of history. I kind of fell in love with it. So it was something where I didn't expect it, never even thought about wanting to do it. But I'll tell you what, being an AD at a small school, and we were 125, at one point we dipped below 100. It's hard work.
You might wear a few hats.
You do not have a secretary, right? So you are selling popcorn, you're making the programs, you are doing literally everything you can think of that puts an athletic contest together, and you're doing it. So it was a lot of work, and I enjoyed my time up there, and I kind of learned how to do the job up there.
Did you ever envision, once this process started, of being an AD, and do you coach at all at Whitewater now?
No, I do not.
Did you ever envision that at this point of your career you wouldn't have any coaching responsibilities, but you'd be an AD? Probably not.
Not at all, because like I said, I went back to school so I could be a coach, right? So not even 10 years away from graduating college, I'm done coaching. And it's like, it's kind of bittersweet because I'm doing this job, and honestly, I don't know what else I would do. I love the job, and I can't envision doing something else. But you may know too, like, there's days where, boy, you really wish you could get back out there and coach, right? And you go out to your football practice, and it's 85 degrees out. It's 3:30, and I go, maybe I don't need to do this anymore. Maybe I'm okay where I'm at.
And I would use the example, it's raining out and blustering wind and things like that in October, and then, when I go out to various practices, I'm thinking, I'm okay too.
I'm okay in the golf cart. Driving my daughters around in the golf cart and checking out practice. So
yeah. So when you were up at Port Edwards, that's where it was, Port Edwards.
Yes.
And then you came down, the next job was the AD job at Whitewater?
Yep.
So back home in more than just a sense.
For sure. Yep. It was definitely part of the reason, it was a large portion of the reason I looked at the Whitewater job. It would have been nice to come home and get my kids around their grandparents and see the aunts and uncles. And honestly, job-wise, it was really what I was looking for. I wanted to be a full-time athletic director. I wanted to go to a little bit bigger school. I did a little bit of teaching my first year. I was teaching 2 FIAD classes. That's since changed, but it was really kind of the perfect scenario. It was a good fit, and it kind of just, I wasn't one of those people that, you're always on weekend looking for the next job, right? It had to make sense, and this one did, and I'm fortunate and happy to be where we're at.
I joke when I go to Stevens Point in the fall, I go quite a bit with my daughter playing tennis up there at UW Stevens Point, and I think I'm the only person that enjoys going to the Iron Skillet.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Made a couple visits there, absolutely.
I have a table in the back that's kind of mine back there, and when I make the trip, and whoever I'm with will go one time, and they'll never have a return visit with me.
All right, okay.
But it's enjoyable. It's just kind of funny that, you think about those things as you go to different distances. You come back home as the AD. Is it what you expected, hoped for?
Yeah.
Or holy macaroni?
Yeah, it's all of that. Absolutely. The job is the job regardless of where you're at, I think. You're always going to have to do the scheduling, the officials, all of that kind of stuff. But, being at a bigger school, you see different situations and you deal with things you didn't have to at the smaller school where everybody knew each other, right? So it is. I think one of my favorite things is, in Port Edwards, we basically had the basics, right? Football, volleyball, both basketballs, and softball and baseball. We have 17 sports at Whitewater. So I really get, my first fall there, we hosted a double sectional for cross country.
Okay.
I'd never hosted a cross country meet in my life, right? So I'm coming in going, whoa, how are we going to do this? But I have fantastic coaches, and they've done it. They know how to host championship meets, and those are the things that I really take away, and I love doing, because you get an appreciation for those other groups that you don't necessarily know about, right? Like, I'm a football, basketball, baseball guy. I know what it looks like, right? But you see how those cross-country kids work hard, and they do it, and how the tennis, you see these other groups and kids and how they work hard, and you really get to appreciate those things.
I think the people watching the show might be a little confused because they might have taken us both for cross-country runners.
Well, I get confused for a runner quite often. I have our cross-country coach. He's a great guy, but I for the life of me, I can't understand why people just enjoy straight-up running, right? Like in basketball,
always a punishment for the sports.
Exactly. You could play pickup basketball all day long and you wouldn't think twice about it. Right. But if you told me to go run for that same amount of time, it's like, what am I doing that for? So
it's really cool when you talk about that, because just understanding the event management and the game management piece, and especially when it gets so big. A couple years ago, we hosted Nicolay and Kakon and boys basketball, and there was like 3,400 people in the gym.
Yep.
That's exciting, but it's in your element.
Yes.
So when we talk about things like cross country and a few other sports, I never even have soccer growing up.
Yep.
So when we talk about some of these various things, it could be we host the Glen Herald for cross country. There's over 900 runners.
Sure.
In August. Thank goodness the cross country coaches are so experienced with setting it up, working with the groundskeepers and painting it and chalking it, and cutting, putting everything up. It's the same everywhere. I mean, so many things. I think as an AD, you become so cognizant of the experience that all of your coaches have.
Yep, absolutely. And when we have those we always host our conference meet, right? So I help with that regardless. And they have that list down of what needs to get done, and it's to the T, and it times out perfectly, and it just all works out. Like, I love hosting cross country. I put the backpack blower on, and I walk that entire UW Whitewater course, and I'm blowing leaves, and I got the beats on, and I just have a morning of like, I'm working, but you have that time in the woods, and it's awesome. It really is.
And before ours, I usually go and take the gator up in the disc golf to make sure everything is school-aged appropriate.
That's a good call.
As well.
Yep. So when we share with UW Whitewater, so obviously we want to make that same trip.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got to make sure everything's kosher on the course. So.
It's pretty exciting though when you host a sports, and even like wrestling was never in my wheelhouse at all, and we just have such experienced wrestling coaches. And we hosted the last year the Little 10 before it closed. My first year, and then we hosted like one of the first 2 years in the Badger.
Sure.
And so I mean, you just learn, but you also have they have so many resident experts and people that come out of the woodwork in the community to work the tables.
Yep.
And everything else. They're pretty cool events to host.
Honestly, you worry about them going into it just because that's what we do, right? You got to make sure everything's lined up. But when they start, they run themselves. They
Right.
run themselves. As long as track wrestling's working,
Right.
life's good.
Yes.
The one for me that I would just feel lost in is gymnastics. Like,
Okay.
I have gymnastics coaches that they know what they're doing. Our kids help out. They know what it looks like. We have a Hall of Famer head coach that helps out. She comes back, does the scoring for us. It's just one of those things where I'd have no idea where to start. It's just one of those things where if you're not exposed to a sport like that, you have no idea how to run it or what it looks like, but you rely on those people that work for you, and they do a great job for us.
You sure do. If you were to describe, if one of the high school kids asked you, hey, Mr. Crandall, what does an athletic director do? How do you respond to that? Remember, the show isn't like 6 hours.
Right? Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I think there's always the day-to-day, we're always scheduling out, right? So we're working on the next year's schedule, throughout the year. If you're in a season of basketball right now, you're trying to put those winter season schedules together for next year. We have code of conduct in regards to weekly grade checks. So that every Wednesday, so today I worked with grades, both at the middle school and at the high school. You're always trying to find officials, making sure that's all up to date. One huge undertaking that I'm going on right now is we're kind of rebranding, right? We're trying to take care of the facility, getting all the windscreen and all of the the window decals. We're hosting 2 sectional basketball finals this year. We have the boys and the girls.
Oh my.
Back-to-back Saturdays. So making sure everything's lined up there, making sure we're kind of putting on a good face and really putting on a good product for those people. So I think the best part about our job is you may think you have one thing going on when you walk into the building, and something just completely blows that up and changes, and you never know what you're getting into. Like, you have routines of those things I just talked about, but today I had a sales rep stop in, and you know how that goes. We'll shoot the breeze for 45 to an hour, and all of a sudden you go, holy cow, it's 2 o'clock. So, the day-to-day always changes, but those things of scheduling and officials and those things, those are constant. But, the grades and things like that, those pop up every once in a while. And, sometimes there's those code of conduct issues and things like that you have to deal with. But, day-to-day, I think it's a fun job, and I've got such a great assistant. Her and I work so well together. Everything I hate doing, she loves it, and vice versa. She hates doing the scheduling and officials, and I do all that. So
Okay.
It's one of those things where we work well together, and we're a good team, and I think we have a lot of good days.
I want to talk about the hosting in just a minute. Once again, our guest is Justin Crandall. He's the athletic director for the middle school and the high school over in Whitewater. So when you talk about the hosting pieces, when we elaborate on it a little bit, think of all the people that come to your community that otherwise wouldn't have been there, because at that point with the sectionals and say hoops, for example, it's all neutral.
Mm-hmm. For
That's
sure.
a pretty cool thing.
It
to
is.
bring that many people into your community.
Yep, it is. I figure in back-to-back weekends, we're going to have 2 schools that more often than not, they don't come to Whitewater, right? And we're going to have packed gyms. We're going to show off our facilities. The basketball is a nice portion. One of the most eye-opening experience I've had for hosting is last year we had sectional track. And I
Okay.
could not believe how many people we put in that stadium. I mean, it was absolutely packed. The inside, the football bleachers were packed. Along the fence was packed. I live about 2 blocks down from the high school, so I have about a 45-second commute. There were cars parked all the way down to my house. It was such a cool experience to see that many people at our facility, and everything ran just flawless.
It
Right?
really is, because it's such a pride point.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that was one of those things where we just put a lot of investment into our facilities. So we just put a new turf field on our stadium. So that's soccer and football.
Okay.
We put a new softball field, all turf, and we had a turf infield for baseball installed. So that kind of goes along that whole theory of really wanting to show off our district and what we do when we bring in these other events. We host a lot of Rock Valley events, and sectionals, we get a lot of those. So, athletics, for better or worse, our facilities, our teams, everything, we're kind of a recruiting tool in regards to showing off and putting out a good product for our district.
Oh, there's no question. We talk a lot about, we just had our locker rooms done.
Yep.
Our FIAD one and our varsity locker room. And when referees would come in, as I was explaining to people, I said, they're not going to see the new science lab. When people come in from the outside, they're going to see the field house, they're going to see the hallway, they're going to see the locker rooms for the referees or visiting team, or the main entrance, what have you. But and you mentioned it great when you said for right or wrong.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
For positive or negative, whatever the case is. But that's just the reality of it. It's a big recruiting tool.
It is. It is. And you know, that's one portion of it, and the other portion that for me is an easy selling point is I want our kids to be able to take pride in where they go to school and where they participate in athletics. You know, they get there at 7:45 if they're in athletics. They leave at 6, sometimes even later. I want them to be, you know, have some pride in their facilities. So, you know, I want to make it better than what, you know, you look at your own experience, and I want to make it better than what I had. You know, that's kind of my driving thought.
Well, you think 10, 11 hours, you're right. That's when they're going to be there.
Yep.
You know, so it doesn't have to be glorious, just well kept up.
Yep.
And now when you get facilities like this for the stadium for soccer and football, and then with softball and baseball, talk a little bit about the expectation or the desire with the branding piece that goes along with it.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where we didn't have a very consistent look at our facilities, right? We have great facilities. Everything's laid out really well. Everything's on campus, right? We had so much fencing, and it was just barren. It was blank fencing, and you know, one of the things I wanted to do is I want you to know exactly where you are when you come onto our property, right? So you come in from Highway N, and in our JV baseball field, huge welcome to Whippet country sign, welcomes you into town. You know, everybody that comes into town sees that. We've got screens, we've got, you know, all of that different stuff. Again, I think it kind of goes with the kids being prideful of where they are, but I want other people in outside communities to see, hey, this place really takes pride in their facilities. It must be a pretty good place to go to school. You know, they're prideful of their athletics and stuff like that.
When you have the kids at school, it's kind of a judgment call here. And by us, obviously, we both have very unique mascots and names and things like that. And our we've embraced it. How is it at Whitewater with say the high school with the Whippets? Is there a pride piece for the kids because of the uniqueness of it? And then what we find is the adults and the alumni, as they get older, the pride just continues to, I guess be as much as possible, just continue to grow.
Yeah, for sure.
What's it like by you?
For sure. So, you know, part of this job is social media, right? We've got a great Facebook page, and we've got great communication and interaction with our alum. And one hashtag that really has caught fire is Whip It Forever. Okay. And you can just tell that because of our uniqueness, and you know, they take it as a point of pride. You know, you can go around anywhere in the state, you're going to see a ton of eagles, right? You're going to see tigers, you're going to see all that stuff. You know, we bring in actual whippets for homecoming. You know, we didn't do it this year because of COVID. We didn't have access, but we're going to run the whippets next year on the football field. So they literally they put the whippets on the field. They have, you know, the rabbits that drag across and they chase.
Let me cut you off and describe to the people watching the show, when they're going to be all over the country watching this and saying, what in the heck is a whippet?
A whippet. I would call it's a greyhound's brother. Okay. Very similar to that. Very skinny, sleek, muscular racing dog.
Okay.
There's not an ounce of fat on those things. And it's crazy. We had, looking for the people to bring their whippets in, there's a lot of people that are like whippet trainers and owners, and it's like a huge subculture.
I've never seen one in real life, I don't think.
Well, next time I'm on here, I'll bring one with. So, but yeah, if you see, you know, my whippet on it looks like a greyhound.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it's really cool. Our gym, we got a great gym. We've got a whippet busting through the bricks that a student painted about 5-6 years ago. It looks awesome. You know, the student section, we kind of refer to them as a dog pound. They've taken it on well, and the community loves it. And it's one of those things where I think it's a point of pride because, like I said, it's so unique. You know, it's us. You don't think about, oh, you know, the whippets up north or whatever. Whitewater, it's it. It's
like
the
those
whippets.
other ones or something.
Yes, exactly. Right. Kind of like you know. I don't see a lot of goslings anywhere else.
I'm not sure I do either. We like to say fierce or mighty or something,
right.
You know.
It's a tough looking gosling.
One of those two up in there before.
Yeah. For sure.
Okay, so now as you coach so many sports, you know, leading up to this is a career point for you. How do you oversee the sports the same or differently for the ones you have more experience with versus the ones that you were more of a novice of?
Yeah, I think for the sports I think for anything, right? I think you just take a step back and you see it through a different lens. And when you're coaching, you're intense and you're in the game and you're acute to everything that's going on. I think when you're supervising, you're looking at so many other things. Is the student section behaving? Did I get water into the refs? Is everything good on the home side? You know what I mean? Like, you just kind of step back and you don't even know totally what's going on in the game.
You sure don't. It's the event.
Yes, it is. It's all ties together. So I'll tell you what, one thing moving from coach to more of an AD is you have an appreciation for those officials and you realize that they're not the issue if you have a problem.
Yeah, I know.
It's not the official. They're not looking to get us. It's we didn't play defense. We're in poor position. It's something like that. I became much more aware of that as opposed to what they're doing. I just kind of saw them as they're event workers. They're there. It's us that needs to fix what we're doing.
Right.
So, yeah, I think just not being so locked in. Obviously, I care. I want us to win in everything we do. But you coach. You leave a game on Friday night and you lost. Man, you wear that all weekend, right? But there's games that I've left. I go, how did we do? Like,
don't even know
where
if you
was
won
it?
or not. Right.
Exactly. So, like you said, it's kind of the event. It's the whole thing coming together and making sure that people leave with a good experience and there was no major issues and they're happy with, the 2.5 hours they just spent at your school.
It's a really important thing, and it's such a transition to do it. How do you think you would have liked yourself play two roles? As an AD, how would you have liked yourself as a coach?
Yeah, I would have hired me. I would have hired me. Yeah. I think so much of that goes back to like my background in coaching with Steve Mahoney and Mike Hall and Matt Knoll. You don't realize how great you had it when you were coaching with those guys until you step away and you do it somewhere else. When you're young and that's the only place you've coached, you look at it and go, well, this is the way everybody does it, right? And you go to wherever, when I coach at Spash or whatever, you don't go out, as a staff after the game. You don't do those things together as a staff, and you appreciate what you had. But as a coach, I was pretty intense, locked in, game film all weekend. I don't think we were ever out prepared by other schools. We put the time in, but more importantly, I think we always treated the kids well. That's one of those things where I'm probably 5-6 years out from the last time I coached football, and I was just talking to my quarterback and my wide receiver a couple of days ago. We still have that relationship, and I think that's something that will continue forever. And I think that's important is building those relationships and making it a positive experience for them. So I think AD Crandall would have been a fan of Coach Crandall.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I would say for me, not early in my career, probably not. I was a hothead.
Yeah.
But as you mature and get a little bit older and get a little more mature and grow up, then yes. But each person has a different level of pressure depending upon where they are. And I feel like all of us had coached for a long time and different things, whatever it may be. The coaches put enough pressure on themselves to win.
For sure.
So it's nice that when we've lived it already, we can just be a resource and a support system and just to try to deflect any external pressure.
Yes.
Whether that be parents or community or whomever, just to try to let them do the job they were hired to do. Yes. And I think if we're super young or super immature, we're probably going to fly off the handle at those parents too, and probably escalate the situation instead of diffusing it.
I was so bad at working with parents early on. You look at them and you don't want to deal with them, right? They're the bad people.
Right.
As you grow older, you go, these are the people, if we communicate with it, we make our programs even better.
Sure do.
Parents are such a great resource in regards to making programs better if you use them and let them be involved in a way that's beneficial for everybody. So that's one thing, and there's no doubt I had to improve on that through the years. But it's just one of those things. I think you just get wiser as you age. So
what would you tell a new AD that's just starting their first year in the fall when they get hired? What would be your advice to someone brand spanking new in the position? And don't say run the other direction.
That was my first thought.
Because it's very rewarding, and I think we have such an impactful job.
Yep.
But also it's going to be that feeling of overwhelmness
for sure
as well. What would you tell a new person?
Yeah, I think what I would say is don't be afraid to ask for help. Ask. Everybody's going to have conference ADs and colleagues that you can rely on and ask for help. I think it's one of those things where everybody's been in that job. Everybody's been their first year, their first fall, their first whatever. Use those others as resources. Use the people in the district. I think one thing that I tried to do at Whitewater more than anywhere is listen to the coaches. You know, they've been here for years. They know what works for them. Try to build on and enhance what they're already doing well. You know, I didn't want to ever come in and just completely change a program, right? Who am I? Like, they don't know who I am, and who cares? So I try to pick out the things that are really well done by our coaches, and I kind of like try to get that through other programs, right? You know, if there's something that wrestling does really well, and I think that could translate into soccer or whatever, share those ideas and use each other as much as possible. And I think that goes for ADs too, is like I said, we're all in the same boat. We've all been there. Ask for help and just be really ready to listen, I think.
That's good advice. So if you look at this point of your career as an AD, are you good in the networking world outside of Whitewater and your conference, or is there room for improvement yet?
Yeah, I think down here, I think there's room for improvement. But I think because of the odd 2-year stretch we've just been in, that kind of inhibited, you know, didn't go to WADA a couple of years ago. We didn't have that networking. You know, I'm really good within the Rock Valley. You know, I know some Badger, obviously Mahoney at Fort. You know, I think when I was in Port Edwards, really good relationships with a lot of ADs up there. You know, knew the local non-conference schools, and you know, easy convo. Hey, Joe, you want to play non-conference basketball? Stuff like that. So, you know, I think it's improving as you move along. So,
it's a lot different. Crystal ball wise, do you envision any other move to? It's not to upset anybody in Whitewater if they would lose you in the future in 15 or 20 years.
Yeah.
Are there any long-term desires that you're chomping at the bit for?
Yeah, you know, I think if I retired from Whitewater, I'd be okay with that.
Okay. What a great way to look at it.
Yeah. It's just one of those things where I've got an 8 and a 5-year-old daughter, right? And they go to just a rock star elementary school. I wouldn't want to move them from that. My wife loves her job. You know, my family's down here. Whitewater's a great place, you know, and the thing with Whitewater currently is there's plenty of things that we can improve on, and I look at those as kind of challenges right now. So I wouldn't want to leave in 1 or 2 years with the job not being done. You know, I'd like to get it back where, you know, when I was in high school, Whitewater was up there. You know, we're in the top 25, I think, for all-time state championships, right? Okay. We won a state championship in 15, right? I'd like to get us back there and be a part of a couple of those and just be able to step back and watch our kids celebrate and our coaches hoist those balls and stuff like that. So I'd like to be in Whitewater for a while.
That's good. You have a really good, humble approach. You can hear it comes through loud and clear.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
It's not always the case in our jobs because there's a lot of egos and a lot of different things that come into play. So it's definitely a compliment.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Once again, our guest, Justin Crandall. He's the middle school and the high school athletic director at Whitewater, just down the road from us. This concludes another edition of Sports Talk. Until next time, keep talking sports. Justin, thanks for being here.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.